Shalom. This is Nizama Shalhamanabar Yasharal on my channel Nizama the Hebrew Mystic Healer. As always, before I get started, I'd like to show some love to my 3D Ken, the 12 tribes of Israel scattered to the four corners of this third dimensional earth plane of existence. Much love and shalom to you. I'd also like to show some love to my cosmic Ken, scattered to the 12 dimensions of this universal egg matrix. Much love and shalom to you as well. And as always, show some love and appreciation to my viewers, especially those of you who are subscribed. If you're not yet subscribed, please do so now, and don't forget to hit the notification bell. So today, I'm going to share more personal experience stories. Today, I'm going to talk about my Kundalini Awakening that I had in 2013. Now, it was toward the end of 2013, but it was still technically 2013, and I feel like that is actually pretty valid, considering the whole idea of the Mayan calendar and really the awakening that is occurring within the collective consciousness, specifically within my particular bloodline, the Nibiru. So I'm going to go ahead and share this story with you guys. So I've been Kundalini awakened since then, and oh wow, I don't know what's going on outside. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not. It was a pretty loud bang. Sounds like maybe somebody's emptying a dumpster or something. Anyway, so my Kundalini story is pretty cool, and I feel like before I jump into that, I should give a little bit of a backstory, because it all really connects back to previous practices I had done and basically the awakening path I was already on. Before the Kundalini Awakening had taken place, I had become a Sui Reiki master, which I feel did help out with the process, helped activate certain minor chakra points, specifically within my hands. But also, just becoming initiated within that practice really helped open up my energy channels. So I know that has a lot to do with it. Yoga, and also I had begun doing deeper states of meditation as well, and I had begun to really activate my third eye all over again, because when I was a kid it was very active, and I actually had to turn it off because it became overactive when I was a teenager. So for several years I had it pretty much turned off, or like at least partially closed, and then I started reopening it again around, I want to say probably 2009. Yeah, about 2009, 2010. And when I was actually starting to really do deeper meditation states and started to access aspects of the mind DNA without realizing it, I actually started discovering the aspect of my dragon heritage without fully understanding exactly where it was from, but there were some definite key pointers. So I had basically tuned in to the main 7 vortex points when I was doing chakra work one time, and I actually saw this white prismatic looking dragon with a very long, slender, serpentine like head curled on my crown. And when I asked what the dragon was, the dragon simply said, "I am the primordial dragon." So that is interesting. And then shortly after that, when I was actually channeling that particular dragon from within my own DNA, I actually started drawing the DNA symbols and the Kundalini symbols. And at the time, I didn't fully understand what it meant. I just knew it had something to do with an activation, but I really didn't put 2 and 2 together at the time. Like, I knew of Kundalini and Kundalini Awakening, but I hadn't really put 2 and 2 together. So fast forward, then I feel like it might have been 6 to 8 months in the future when this happened. My now ex-husband and I had moved to Boston, and we had serendipitously run into this guy in this occult bookstore. And this guy had all these cool connections. Like, he was really a tech genius. He had created apps. He had actually done I don't remember if it was music or protection or something for the Wu-Tang Clan or something like that, but it was really cool. And we ran into him, and he was really looking into getting crystals and stuff, and so he started asking me questions because he saw that I was buying crystals, and we all just started talking. And before we knew it, we hit it off, and he asked us if we wanted to go back to his apartment and try one of his virtual reality designs that he had done. And he had like these virtual reality glasses and everything else. And we said that sounded cool. And he also mentioned that he had CBD. Oh, not CBD, excuse me. 2CB. CBD. 2CB. 2CB is actually a form of synthetic molly and mescaline combined. And so it was just a real serendipitous current. And we had hung out with him for a while. And so we're like, okay, sure. So we go back to his apartment, and I remember I had bought some, not Tektite, I had bought some Moldavite at the Cold store, and I felt really drawn to it and to use it. And so, please don't do this at home, kids, because you really shouldn't put anything that ends in an "ite" when you're dealing with crystals directly into water and drink it, because it can actually leach off a lot of harmful metals and minerals and stuff like that. But in my case, I survived. But anyway, I dropped a Moldavite in a cup of distilled water, and I basically blessed it, and I drank that right before I did the 2CB. And so I remember after I did the 2CB, my husband at the time, now my now ex-husband, and this guy, they were just hanging out and they were laughing. They had the giggles, and they were experiencing like minor symptoms. And I just remember I started having like full blown closed eye hallucinations. But basically it started with me just kind of feeling like this immense euphoric feeling like my head was a little lightheaded. I remember I was just trying to breathe in really nice and deep. And then I heard like this gentle, it almost felt like moaning, but it was like this gentle kind of like female voice breathing in and out that I knew was coming from within my blueprint. And I saw these green snakes everywhere. And then I saw these blue hands. And then I remember I started laughing and then crying and laughing and then crying. And I could just feel all of these emotional blocks just being cleared as this was happening. And so after that was happening, something deep from within me was instructing me to lie down. So I lied down, and as I lied down, the more laughing and the more crying. And then all of a sudden I sat up, and as I was breathing, I was spontaneously being put into these yoga kriya positions without realizing, like these are advanced positions I had never studied before. Like I had studied like the watered down Western version of yoga, vinyasa mostly, but also some of the hot yoga as well, and a little bit of hatha, but really it was like really the watered down Western yoga. It wasn't the really advanced like yoga positions you do for raising the Kundalini. And so I was being put into these, I just intuitively was putting myself in these positions and breathing at just the right time. And as I was doing this, the Kundalini was climbing up my chakras, and it was like I was being shown exactly where to move and where to place. And I would not be able to recall this, like if I was asked. But at the time, it felt very natural and very autopilot. And so, and I could feel that I was each of these positions was basically guiding the Kundalini up a different area of my chakra. And then when it got to my crown, I just saw it explode out in all these colors. And that's when I realized later on why it was called the 1,000-petal lotus, because I literally saw so many colors just coming out of the top of my head. And I could see that the Kundalini, actually, the energy looked white. It didn't look red. It looked white. But then after the Kundalini happened, I actually saw this red fiery dragon appear with yellow eyes. And this dragon was literally made of fire, and it was just, I was closing my eyes, and at this point in time I was laying back down again. And I remember I heard and felt the Om symbol as soon as the energy, as soon as the Kundalini had like escaped the top of my crown basically. And then I saw this dragon made of pure fire, and I saw all these geometric shapes like shifting behind the dragon. And I remember the energy felt a little intimidating to me, very masculine, but not like malevolent, just very aggressive, very fiery, very masculine. And I didn't realize at the time, but I was actually looking at my own primal self, you know. And I went back and forth after the Kundalini for a while because I hadn't accessed my soul star chakra yet. You know, I had opened up all of my 7 main chakras, but I hadn't accessed my earth or my soul star chakra. So even though I had access to intuitive guidance and stuff, and I would get certain messages, I wasn't really able to access like my oversoul. And so I was not able to know basically what that dragon was. Like, I wasn't sure if it was an external force at the time. I wasn't sure what it was. And so I just knew that something was familiar. And so even though the energy felt really aggressive and masculine, almost Mars-like, for lack of a better word, I was basically not afraid. And I just remember that I was saying, wow, you know, I feel like I'm home. Like, feels like family. I remember like saying that in my head. And the dragon, when the dragon would speak to me, it felt like this whisper reverberating through my whole being. And so I felt and heard, you know, like just within, like vibrating, like the dragon speaking. And the dragon was basically saying that I was, you know, in the 5th dimension now. I was meant to be like a 5th dimensional, you know, like I was activating basically my crystalline body, my light body, and that I was ascending to that particular dimension, which I didn't understand any of this at the time because I wasn't really in depth in, like, I had done like occultic studies, I had done spiritual practices, but at this point in time, I really wasn't super experienced with that concept. I wasn't familiar with the starseed community at that point in time. I had basically dealt with some of the more surface, like Indian spiritual practices, and some of the more surface, like pagan practices and occultic practices, but at that point in time, I hadn't really dove really deep. So I wasn't really familiar with the concept of the 5th dimension, but this is what I was being told. And I remember, like, again, kids, don't try this at home. I remember saying, make me a vessel for this process. So normally when you see a being and you don't know what it is, you don't say things like that. But I was very caught up in the motion of it and the situation. I could feel that it was familial to me. I didn't understand in what way at that point in time. But normally you don't just say things like that. See, you want to keep your sovereignty intact. But anyway, it ended up working out for me because this dragon basically like created this ball of fire from itself and just put it within my solar plexus. This is what's known as fire in the belly. So it really fuels your inner fire. It fuels your willpower, your creative potential, things like that. Again, didn't understand all this at the time. So after that, I just remember saying, like, you know, I'm home. I could feel the connection. Didn't understand it was actually me. So anyway, as I was tuning into this, the dragon basically did this to me, was like, come. And at first I was all for it. I was like, all right, I even said out loud, okay, bye guys, I'll see you later. And they were like, what is she talking about? They're just kind of doing their own thing. So I felt myself lift off onto this geometric shape, and I could feel myself disconnecting from my body. I could feel like my astral and etheric body disconnecting. And I remember I panicked. And I don't know why I panicked, but I just panicked. And I opened my eyes, because I had my eyes closed this whole time. And when I opened my eyes, I was suddenly thrust back into like 3D space. And I stood up and I started kind of pacing. And then I looked up and I saw like this, the best way I could describe it is, I don't know how many of you guys may have seen Spawn, like the movie Spawn, like old school from like the 90s. There's a scene where the Violator was coming through the side of this wall, and it looked like, as this coming through this wall, is like this outline shape of it. That's what the dragon aspect of me looked like. It was coming through the wall, almost like coming after me. Not really, that's not really what was happening, but that's what it felt like. And I could see like the outline of its head and its claws coming through. And as that was happening, part of my body was falling through into another dimension. Like I could feel myself falling into another dimension. as all this was happening, fire started shooting up on the candles, and it was interesting because I actually noticed my ex-husband and our friend look at the same time, like they noticed that they could see something was different, and everything kind of got red and fire in the whole room. And then I basically, I distanced myself. I pulled myself back away. I got into the other room, and then I remember I did a line of Valium to kind of compensate for the chemical reaction, to help bring myself back down into the third dimension, because I was basically wigging out. So after that, I remember I started understanding a lot. Everything started piecing together. It took about a few days, but things started to piece together for me. I remember I could hear the Om nonstop for, I think it was like 2 weeks straight. Just could hear the vibration of everything, like just life just being sustained by this vibration, the sound, as formation is light, sound, vibration. So, and I remember stripping everything off of the walls. Like I didn't want to look at anything. I didn't want any kind of paradigm. I didn't want any kind of image. It was like I just wanted to sit in 0 point frequency and just meditate. And I didn't want any like paradigms like influencing my headspace. And I just remember like understanding at that point in time how everything was really fragments of one thing, and how, all narratives were really part of the same truth, as far as like each person having their own narrative, their own understanding of things that happen. The thing with religions and egregores, I suddenly understood that it was all really, none of it mattered, and really everything was just one reality, and it was just fractuated in all these like dimensional planes of existence and experience and all these timelines, and just sitting with that. And that was really the first time I understood that. And I also remember just researching dragons. And then around that time I started going into, started being pulled into more of the left-hand path, because I really wanted to dive into who I was, and who, just within my own DNA. And I had already experienced the main 1 through 7 chakra points. So it's like I wanted to start experiencing more of the Quiplophic side of my own aspect, or my own dark nature. So I started going more left-hand path, and I started going more of the path of Kali. And I feel like I was also drawn in this path to purge out things that no longer served me after this awakening process, because after this awakening process, my ex-husband and I started having problems, and we couldn't maintain, the marriage anymore, because we were just on 2 totally different levels. And it wasn't for lack of trying, but as I was going into left-hand path, I also ended up finding out about my 3D heritage in that whole process. And in finding out my 3D heritage, that took me down the path of Torah. And so I had went down the left-hand path, and then I switched to a Torah center path, exploring my 3D heritage. So fast forward a few years, it was about 2 years ago, I started really going back into the more, the deeper spiritual dimensions of things. And that was when I activated my soul star and my earth star. That's when I started activating the higher chakras up to the 15th chakra of the main chakra points, and not including minor. A total of, I believe I'm at 94 major minor chakra points now. But I digress. Point being is I started revisiting a lot of aspects. Things started circling around. I started deepening my wisdom and deepening my knowledge and understanding. I started activating my other strands of DNA, I started accessing my own ancestry cosmically, and even taught. And so the path kind of started, not only did it start with the Kundalini Awakening and that activation, but I also started to become more familiar with my 3D lineage. Well, then I started actually meeting my ancestors, my 3D ancestors and my cosmic ancestors, and actually recalling past life memories. So everything just started happening organically at that point in time, and I couldn't put the lid on my third eye after that. That was it. It was like, once I unlocked my soul star, that was just it. I couldn't go back after that. And so really the Kundalini Awakening was really, once you activate those main chakra points, it just kind of, the Kundalini will just start clearing other areas of your tree after that. It'll just keep going. It'll just keep going and going. And that's basically what's happened. And so I'm still in the awakening process. I'm still in the remembering process. I'm still, growing in my understanding and understanding and overstanding. And, still kind of, sensing and like gaining like conscious and cosmic awareness of my existence at all these levels. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys. One more thing before I go. The connection between the fiery dragon, I found out later, actually connects also with my demonic self, or the culmination of all of my past lives and layers of soul aspects in existence. So not only did the fiery dragon represent my primal self, it also represented really my core nature, my culmination. So even though my first primordial emanation was a feathered serpent dragon, the full culmination of all of my experiences and incarnations were more so embodied and represented by like the fiery dragon form. And what's interesting about that is I recently found out that in my Draconic chart, which is different than the tropical chart and the Vedic lunar mansion chart, that my Draconic chart, which is supposed to represent more so your soul expression up to this point, whereas the tropical chart really has to do with like your current incarnation, what the influences are for that incarnation, how it shapes you and gears you and prepares you and really sustains you for your purpose, in this particular incarnation. Whereas the Draconic chart has more to do with your general soul expression. So in other words, again, going back to that core soul expression. Well, what's interesting is I am a Gemini sun, Capricorn moon, Aquarius rising, okay, for my Godhead. And then I have, Mercury and Venus in Gemini, and I have Scorpio and Mars, just kind of rattling off those main influences. Well, I actually found out that I have, in my Draconic chart, my sun is actually in Aries, my moon is in Scorpio, and my rising is in Sagittarius. So I thought that was really interesting. And I can't remember what my Mars is off the top of my head in the planetary sense in the Draconic chart. But when I plugged in the star seeds, it ended up being in Thub and Draco, which I thought was interesting. And so, and within my Godhead, I had Serpens and Orion and Ophiuchus and Reticuli. So I thought that was interesting, just plugging in the starseed placements. So definitely interesting. And with that in mind, guys, I am going to be offering the Draconic charts as part of packages with the Akashic Records readings that I do on my healing page very soon. I actually have the books. I'm studying them now. I've been practicing on myself and my immediate family members. So as soon as I feel like I have a real hold on it and I feel like I'm proficient enough in it, I will begin to offer it. Because I feel like this is better to do for looking for starseed placements because, like I said, it's more reflective of your actual soul expression. Whereas the tropical, which is what most people do, and even the lunar Vedic mansions, they're still more representative of this particular incarnation, which is more useful in dealing with, okay, well, what lessons am I trying to concentrate on this life? What karma do I need to work on this life? What influences celestially do I have in this life? But the Draconic is more geared for your entire soul blueprint. So I think that's really interesting. I just wanted to let you guys know I will be offering that. I did do a post on that as well. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed my Kundalini story. I hope you enjoyed hearing about my personal experience. I promised you guys that I would start sharing more of that, more of what I'm channeling. from my soul family or my oversoul, more information on the Anunnaki and the Hebraic mysticism aspect, and also, more from my personal experiences. So I did promise that for you guys. And I will also still be continuing to upload new starseed placements as well. So I am going to continue doing that. And I also want to let you guys know that I will be offering past life regression sessions soon. I already offer like meditation techniques on Patreon for past life regression, but I will be offering actual live past life regression sessions soon. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care, stay tuned, and shalom. Until next time.